Today is April 22nd, 2025. My name is Bobby Goodman, and I'm interviewing Dr. Alan Freeman about his days at the Columbian Club. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's just jump right in here. Tell me when, Dr. Freeman, you were a member of the Columbian Club. When did you join, and how long were you a member there?
It was either 77 or 78. I forget exactly. It's so long ago. And I stayed until 2018.
Wow. So a long-time member.
Long-time member.
When you joined in 77 or 78, tell me a little bit about what the membership kind of looked like then. Were these people that were more your age? Were they older? What was kind of the membership? What did the look of that?
You know, I can't really tell you because it's so long ago I don't remember. I get maybe people were older. I'm think back on it.
Right.
Probably older than I was at the time. I was, let's see, 41 to 71, 30. I was like 38 years old or something like that when I joined. I would say most of the people were older.
Right. What made you decide to join the club?
Well, my in-laws were members, and I liked to play golf. And actually, I was a member of another club temporarily on a short basis. I joined with another friend who was a doctor, and we played together. And I can't remember the name of the place now, but it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But it's thinking back on this, and I looked at the questions you sent me. It seems to me that they offered at the time like a half-price initiation fee for relatives, and my in-laws really liked the place, and I had been there a few times with them, and so I decided to do it.
What was your in-law? What were their names?
Morris and Regina Roth, R-O-T-H.
And so you liked playing golf, and you had
did.
family members, the in-laws were members there also.
Right.
Did you ever feel a sense that of joining? Did anti-Semitism at all factor into any of your thoughts of joining the Columbian Club?
Not a bit.
Right. When you joined, did you have other relatives other than your in-laws, or did you know many people at the Columbian Club at the time you joined?
No other relatives, and no, I didn't. I came late to Dallas as a senior in high school, and then was away all the time I was in college and medical school and training away from here, and we came back here in 1974. So I didn't really know a lot of people in Dallas at that time. My time spent in Dallas was relatively short.
Right.
Summers somewhat, but other than that, not much time here. So I did not know a lot of people, so I met a lot of people there.
So it became a social place for you as well.
Yes, it did. Yes, that's true.
When so you joined, you were a golfer at the time. What other kind of activities did you and your family participate in?
Well, we went to the dinners and the 4th of July celebration and Mother's Day and all that stuff. Everything that the club had to offer, we did that stuff. And we would go on Sunday or on Wednesday nights. I forgot what the particular thing was then. It was a chicken night or something.
Right.
Was that Wednesday?
Right, Wednesday.
I forgot all the details. But yeah, we went to the club. It was a very nice place to go. And if you remember back then, there weren't so many good restaurants in town because of the silly club business with you had to get a drink, that kept the restaurants down. So we were at the club. We spent a lot of time with the club, and my kids learned to swim and at the pool, and they were always swimming at the pool. So it was a good thing for our family.
So your kids grew up out at the Columbian Club.
They did.
Didn't and then your involvement. You said your passion for golf and playing golf. Ever tennis? Did y'all make use of the tennis
My
court?
wife did a little bit. She
Yeah.
played a little tennis. She wasn't an avid player, but she played some.
Right.
But I really never was into tennis.
Right. The uh, your relationship with the Columbian Club. Did you get involved with committees uh, and tell us a little bit about how you may have your involvement, maybe leadership, if any.
Well, sometime early to mid 90s,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember exactly when
Right.
it was. And I recall, I have a memory of an incident in the men's locker room where a member came up to me and said, someone recommended you to be on the board. Would you like to be on the board? And I'd never been involved in anything in that way in the club. And I can remember the encounter, and I can almost sort of remember the person, but I can't remember the person's name. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So after that, I don't remember exactly what the details of how it all started, but I became a member of the board somewhere in the mid-90s, I think. I don't remember exactly the year. So I was on the board, and it ultimately led to my being the treasurer of the club. Not that I had any specific financial background, but I got the pick to do that. But also I was chosen to be on the Greens and Grounds Committee and chaired it with Irv Rosen for a while. Unfortunately, he passed on, and it kind of fell to me. And I think that Harold Kuhn and I sort of co-chaired the Greens and Grounds Committee, and we got to, I'm trying to remember, 1998, and I was chairman, and Harold was with me, and of course Joe McMahon was the superintendent of the course. And it was decided that we were going to do a renovation. And it had been, the course I think was built in the 60s. Lee Trevino was actually part of the work crew that helped to build the course. So it had been like 35 years since any renovations had been done on the course. And you know, periodically things have to be done to a golf course to keep it going. And so we spent most of the year of '98, I think that was right, trying to work with various people and architect and a construction company and working out the details and figuring out how this was going to be done. And it was a little contentious because some people said we don't need to do it, and then other people said, well, how are we going to pay for it? And all those things were discussed, and they were all brought to the membership, and the board was on it, you know, over and over and over again. And ultimately, it was decided to do it in I don't remember the exact number, but I think maybe you recall, you remember then, maybe you recall some of that. I think something like a $2,100 assessment was made to cover the cost of it. Does that sound right to you?
Sounds something.
I don't remember.
Not quite sure.
Exactly, but there was an assessment to try to raise the funds to do it. And the course was closed on like the 5th or 6th of January, 1999. And the reconstruction of the course took place all during the year of 1999, during which time the course was closed, and the members went to other places around town, played at other clubs, and of course the club was still there, and the facilities and the dining or whatever still went on, but the course was closed, and reopened on, I think, November 6th, 1999, with a ceremony at the first tee, which I still remember.
Wow.
Do you remember Zola Blicker?
Sure.
Well, I don't even know if Zola's still alive or not. You haven't interviewed him, have you?
I don't know.
Well, you ought to look and see. No, I don't know about Zola, but because he was a bit older than I was at that time, but he was president of the club. He was a tennis player, didn't play golf at all. So it was kind of a little bit like a joke, but we put him on the first tee, teed the ball up, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think we even gave him a tennis racket to hit the golf ball with
That's
off
awesome.
of the first tee as the grand opening of the new course.
That's awesome.
And that, yeah, I have good memories of that. Some things I can remember, some things they're all fuzzy, but I do remember that.
Did you take that involvement of from the committees, leadership? Weren't you also?
Well, at that time, I became treasurer. I think I was chairman and treasurer at the same time. Chairman of the Greens and Grounds Committee and chairman and treasurer at the same time. And then I progressed to. I was thinking about this after I saw your questions, and I hadn't thought about it in a long time. Something unusual happened in the leadership of the club. Some person got skipped over for some reason, I can't, or decided they didn't want to be an officer anymore, and so I got moved from treasurer to vice president, never having been secretary. The normal course was treasurer, secretary, vice president, president, if you survived all of that. So I never was secretary. They moved me because somebody dropped out, and then they put Alan Klein. I can't remember how that happened, but the committee, the nominating committee, chose him, and so he became president of the club when I was vice president of the club. And then I don't really recall what happened to the Greens and Grounds Committee, because once the project was done, it went to somebody else, I think, because I'd been there for several years. So actually what I wanted to do was to give you this, since I think I told you, once I got your email and you said you wanted to interview me about this, I went back into a briefcase I had that has a lot of documents about the club. And I hadn't looked at it in years and years, and I found stuff in there. It just shocked me that I had written this and presented things to the club. And I want to give you that here. You can I found this folder which you can have.
Oh, Mr. President.
Well, this is the annual. We had an annual meeting every February, if you remember that. And the committee chairs gave a brief report of what happened in the previous years. And there was some voting of certain things in the budget, and the treasurer obviously gave a report. And so that was my report as the chairman of the Greens and Grounds Committee after the project was complete.
That's awesome.
And so I thought that might be something here. You can have that.
Thank you very much. From the old Columbian Club logo, too.
Yeah, that's the thing. And by the way, when we...
Wow, that's awesome.
When we left, Joe McMahon gave me a couple of T markers, those little bricks that used to be in. I have two at my house in the front. I have them in the garden in the front of my house as a commemoration.
So obviously, you were very involved in the leadership at the Columbian Club.
Oh, no question, I was. So in 2003 and 2004, I was president of the club.
Were those... I guess in 2003, that must have been a pretty stressful and time to be on the board and to be the leader of the board.
I suppose there was always something going on at the club.
Right.
But we started to get into the issue of the debt that we had, and the members were starting to decline, membership was, and what we were going to do to keep things going. I don't remember the timing of it or exactly what happened. And there was a time in there, and I can't remember if it was my second year as president, but we reorganized the membership and made a two-tier, I don't know if you recall that. I don't remember what it was called, but we made a two-tier membership where some people could pay a lower dues and they didn't have couldn't get all the best tea times, and there's certain
Right.
things they couldn't do. I don't remember all the details. And then there was the other level where you paid the full dues and you had all the privileges. That was a concession to people who were saying, oh, it's too expensive and we can't afford to do this anymore, and because we were having problems recruiting members.
Right. The tell us a little bit about the importance of the club to you and your family.
Well, it was a major part of our lives at that point. We participated in all the events, and my wife and I went to the dances that we had on Saturday nights or whatever. We did all that stuff, and of course I was involved at some point in getting the various bands to come. There was one fellow who we always had, and Gabby Emery, you remember Gabby?
Sure.
Yeah, he would help us get all that going. We went to those functions, and we went to all the other stuff, Mother's Day and Memorial Day and the 4th of July and all the fireworks, and we had a wonderful time with all the fireworks.
And your kids grew up
and
there,
the kids
right?
grew up. So yeah, it was a major part of our life, and the fact that we couldn't keep it going was a major disappointment.
Right.
No question about it, major disappointment.
When you joined, you said it was you knew your in-laws. Obviously, you were there a long time, made lots of friends, and
Right.
Are you still in contact with a lot of those friends today?
Yes, I am. Some. There aren't so many left, at this point. But yes, I remain in contact with a whole bunch of people. Charles Zelazny was one. He gave you my name, did he? Said to call me.
Yeah.
Charles, we go out to dinner now and then. He's a good friend. But there are other people as well. I have a Monday lunch group that I'm involved with. It has the Lerman brothers in it, and it has other people who used to. Don Goldman is in it. David Glickman. They were members.
Wow.
So yes, there's still people that I know that were members of.
That's wonderful.
Of the club.
What were some of your favorite? Share, if you will, some of your favorite memories of being a member of the Columbian Club, or one.
Well, I love to play. I love to be out on the golf course. I guess maybe looking back at it now, maybe the most significant part of it was my involvement in the running of the club. I have to say. I mean, we loved all the social part and all, and I would have continued that. I didn't expect to be involved in the running of the club, like it turned out that I was. Nothing I ever tried for or intended to do. It just sort of fell in my lap, and I went with it. But it was a significant part of my life.
Wow. So, let me ask you this: why do you, in your opinion, and you were involved in the leadership, so you probably have really in tune to it. Why do you think the Columbian Club ended up closing?
Well, that's a question that's been asked over and over and over many years. I believe I knew it at the time, and I still think that the reasons that I thought then are the reasons that are correct. There are like 4 or 5 different things. First of all, you can remember a time when Jewish people could not join other clubs. Okay, we got to a point where that went away and people could join other clubs. You recall a time when there were not good restaurants in Dallas because of that silly club business where you had to have a club card to be able to get a cocktail in a restaurant. Of course, we didn't have that kind of thing at the club, and we had a wonderful restaurant and people liked the foods. But then when they did away with that business, then there started to be restaurants.
Right.
And you remember, all of a sudden, this little town of Addison, which was nothing, exploded with restaurants and liquor shops.
Right.
And that's the way it is now. I mean, every block has 2 or 3 restaurants on each side of the street in Addison. So that came along, and so the club was no longer the only place to go get to a good restaurant. And um, then there was the fact that we were way out in Carrollton, and people complained, oh, it's so far away, and you have to drive across the railroad tracks to get. We heard that all the time. That was such a bunch of baloney, I thought. Although eventually we did move the entrance to that, can't remember the name of the street, the next street down.
Kelly.
Was it Kelly? Okay, we moved the entrance over there, and I forget exactly what the reason for that. There was some construction or some reason why that happened, but that eventually happened. But I never thought that was a good reason why anybody would say, but they did. Have to drive across the tracks, and it's so far away. And the last thing I think which is significant is that, well, you know, it takes a while to play golf. It takes, you know, like close to 4 hours to play a round of golf. You got to get there, you got to change your clothes, you got to go warm up. When it's over with, you shower, whatever. So you figure like something like 6 hours, or you know, you've got to devote that to be for a round of golf if that's what you're going to do. And a lot of the younger generation, our kids, were saying, that's too much time to spend. I don't have time to do that. So we began to have a significant problem getting younger members to join the club, while our older members were moving on to often to a very much higher level, if you know what I mean. Excuse me. So we had trouble replacing members who left with newer, younger people. And eventually it became significant enough that we couldn't keep our membership going. So I believe those were the key things: the dining, the location, the age, losing older people and not being able to replace them.
Right.
And that's what. And the last thing was our members wanted the best. They wanted the best place, but they don't want to pay for it.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Do you think a Columbian Club could exist today?
No, I don't. In fact, we were not the only ones, but you probably know this, but across the country, Jewish country clubs went out of existence around the time we did, one after one after one after one, all over the country, presumably for the same kind of reasons. I don't know their situations, but that happened. So we weren't the only ones. It gave us a little solace. We thought, you know, it's not that we screwed up and we're the only ones, but there were in other cities. I mean, Houston for sure, and I can't even name them all, but many cities, their Jewish country club went out of existence. There just wasn't the same reason for it to be there that there was in 1950, 60, 70.
Interesting. Are you familiar with the New Columbian Club?
Familiar in that I heard of it. I've seen an article in the newspaper. I've heard people talk about going there for a drink. I do not know the family that started this thing. I was kind of curious at first, how did this happen? I couldn't even tell you because I don't remember. I don't know them. I haven't been there. I haven't seen the place. I don't know about it. Some people thought it was kind of fun. It's just a bar with minimal food, I think, is it not?
And they have some menu items from the club, the Parmesan bagels and some memorabilia.
Yeah.
So before I ask my last question, is there anything that I didn't ask that you'd like to share with us?
I don't know. I think we've covered it, except to say one of the saddest things in my life was the fact that the club couldn't make it, that it went out of existence. It was a wonderful place in its heyday. It was wonderful, and the members loved it. So all the people you've interviewed, I don't think you had one that said they hated the place, or that, I mean, everybody loved. It was a wonderful place, and one of the saddest things in my life was to see it, and I was clearly involved in trying to keep it going, and the odds were just stacked against us. We couldn't do it.
Right. So my final question is, when I mention the word Columbian Club, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Darn, we don't have it anymore.
Great.
Because I stayed because they said members can stay for 5 years, from 2013 to 2018, for the same dues and no assessments. So I stayed, but thinking, I don't know exactly what's going to happen here. But I'd been there a while. I liked the place. I had a sense, obviously, that it wasn't going to be the same place, and they proved it right away with building that golf course that was so hard that hardly anybody could play it. I was on it, I don't know, maybe a half a dozen times or something. I don't remember. But somewhere along the line, after a couple of years, the people that stayed started asking, well, what happens after 2018? What happens? And they kept saying, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. And people kept saying, what happens, what happens? Finally, I don't remember exactly the year, but I'm going to say it was around 15 or 16. They came out with a plan for what could happen. You were probably already gone. Were you gone by then?
I stayed till about 2008 or 9 through the honors.
Oh, so you were there when the honors, and then you left. Okay, so they came out with this deal where, depending upon your age, you would pay a certain amount into the new club and belong to Merido. And it was named Merido, by the way, because that was a nickname for Albert Huddleston's wife, and so he named it for her. So I can't remember all the details, but if you were 80, I do remember this, if you were 80 years old, you didn't have to pay a fee to stay in. But the younger you got, the bigger the number got, and at my time then, it was $30,000 to stay in as a member. And I thought, this obviously isn't even close to what we had before. We don't have the functions that we had. It's just not, it's not the members aren't there. It's not the same people. It's not the same. It's just not the same club. So I also had a friend who was from Galveston, who was moving here, and he liked to play golf. And he had said to me, "Find us a place to play." And when it got to 2018, I said to them, to the people at Merido, okay, so what's it going to be now for me to stay? 80,000. And I thought that's ridiculous. And I knew my friend who was coming, he wasn't going to want to do that. He didn't have a connection to the club at all. So that's when the two of us started looking around, and then we joined Prestonwood together in 2018. So I've been there at Prestonwood since. Yeah. So that's it. My main thought is, darn, it's no more Columbian Club. I think I can tell you I have been there since I took the stuff out of my locker, probably September 2018, but I don't remember exactly. I took the stuff out of my locker and closed my locker and walked out the door. I've been there twice.
Wow.
Once, our lunch group, one of the guys is still there, he said, let's go to the old Columbian Club for more. And then a friend who's still a member there invited us for dinner one night. And so on those two occasions, so that's getting close to 6.5 years now or so, I've been there twice.
Wow.
Yeah, sad.
Dr. Freeman, I appreciate you sharing your memories about the Columbian Club. We really appreciate your views on it and your memories.
Thank you. Appreciate having the opportunity. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.